Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here. In today's video, I want to talk again about Masters of Evil, but this time I'm going to be doing a deep dive into their stats and a little bit on their kit, but I want to kind of break them down. Some of you guys might remember that I've done something like this with previous teams. It's been a little while. I guess my motivation has been a little bit low, especially since Christmas, because I've been doing videos a little bit less, but I want to get back into it, and I want to talk about this team kind of holistically. I want to talk about it, you know, how good are some of the characters? How good do they look on paper? And what kind of value could we potentially extract out of them aside from Cosmic Crucible? I think, you know, we pretty much know that they're going to be a good Crucible team, at least for this season. We'll talk about more about that. But what other values will there be outside of, obviously, we talked about it in my previous video, is the legendary unlock that could be coming. We're going to talk about that and more in today's video, so if you're ready to go, then let's boil this down. And so just to recap, in case you didn't watch some of my most recent videos and you didn't check the blog post from 2 weeks ago, I think it's been now. So Masters of Evil will be a required trait for a future legendary character event. So be on the lookout for more information. And maybe by the time, you know, because I'm actually recording this before the Friday blog, so who knows, maybe that information is there. I don't think it is. But I think it'll be a couple of weeks before we actually figure this out. Based on my previous videos, though, honestly, I think we're going to be going back to a 5-star unlock for these. There could be more requirements. There could be, like, you know, blue for ions or ISO, you know, whatever. Who knows, right? But I think at a bare minimum, we're going to be moving, I think, you know, and this is not for sure, that we're going to be moving away from the Scourge style events for a little bit, because I feel like it didn't really make as much money as them FOMOing out and making you chase a 5-star, pretty much a brand new team. You know, 4 new characters outside of Ultron, and I think that would monetize very well for them, and bad for us, unfortunately, because free-to-play are likely only going to get 3-star on most of these characters. So, just want to start there. I want to talk about the characters writ large. I want to talk about them and their stats. So I've done this with previous teams, like I mentioned, and so I want to start here. Now I've created a fairly basic table, you know, but it kind of highlights their positives, their negatives, and what they do for the team, specifically in Crucible. Now this is the full stats with passives in Crucible. Sorry, this actually outside of Crucible. I don't know why it says in Crucible. With regular passives, it does not include the Crucible passives, because I think we basically we know they're going to be really, really good this season in Cosmic Crucible. So their stats are actually going to be compounded a little bit based on in the notes section there. There's going to be some additional stats on top of the ones that you see in this table. This is actually their table stats with standalone buffs that are just, you know, with outside of Crucible. So with things that they give to themselves or whatnot, this is basically pulled out of MSF.gg in the stats table there. So Ultron, he did get a base stat rework, but it's not super significant by any means. Where he does excel is in his armor, so he's like a top 15 character here in his armor stat, which is great because he's also giving his own armor stat to more armor to the rest of the team in Crucible. So he gives 50% extra armor to the team in Crucible, and a 30%. He gets 30% crit damage with the full team. This is going to compound with Kang the Conqueror later on when we talk about him. And then in Crucible, he gets a 15% speed bar, which is very necessary because he's super slow. And even though 107 doesn't sound slow, it is, because it's in like the back 70, the back 25% of all the speed characters. You know, this is top 140. There's about 220 characters, I think. So this isn't super stellar. Rest of his stats are pretty mediocre. You know, they're green if they're like top 20, orange if they're not, and then like red if they're in the back 100 plus. You know, so as far as stats go, it's not super amazing for Ultron. It is what it is. He's an older character, right? So we're going to be focusing more specifically on the newer characters in this team. Titania is quite interesting. So on paper, she looks really good, especially if you compare to some of the other characters that we're going to be talking down below. So she is the second character of the team. Her unique is Ballistic Weave, by the way, in case you want to build her up. Her health, her damage is in the top 15, 20, you know, like, so it's really, really good. Her ratings are very good. Armor and Focus, also pretty good, you know, in the top 25 or so. And the only thing that she does not excel in is Resistance and Speed. So she's pretty slow. She is a little bit slower than Ultron, which even though it's just a little bit, it does make a significant difference. Speed is very important in these sort of turn-based RPG type games. So being 102 and being a top 150 speed character is not very good. However, she compensates for that in Crucible because she gets 10% speed bar. So that knocks her up a little bit, and you pretty much enough to do what she needs to do in Cosmic Crucible. She also gives 25% HP to herself more, so this number is going to be ratcheted up in Cosmic Crucible, and then 50% to the team. So if you see that anyone has like anyone else has a base value hit points that are somewhat low, know that at least in Cosmic Crucible, that's going to get ratcheted up by 50% to the rest of the team members in Cosmic Crucible. But, you know, what about outside of Cosmic Crucible? So I want to kind of talk about her kit a little bit. And if you were to ignore everything that's in the Crucible, also PS, her tags, so she is a global character. I take a little bit of issue with a lot of these characters being global because we have a lot of options for global characters outside of this. If you're thinking about, say, Dark Dimension, for example, there's so many global options that I just don't think it's a priority to build for that reason. So I just want to throw that out there. If you're considering other usages in this game, Dark Dimension is not going to be one of them, just because there's so many better options, in my opinion, for more broader global characters. But let's just like remove the Crucible text out of this and see what kind of value she might have, like even in War, right, or in any other game mode. Attack primary target for 320 plus clear 1 negative effect from self. Pretty boring, right? That's pretty bad, actually, as a basic attack. Her special attack, attack primary target for 400% damage. It's okay. On crit, clear all negatives from self. Might not happen that much outside of Cosmic Crucible. Copy and clear all positive effects on primary target, and it's okay. And gain defense up. Obviously, this is a lot better in Crucible because you're getting Safeguard if they have Safeguard, so that's really good. And then the extra buffs here. It is unavoidable, though. So, her ultimate, though, attack primary target for 400%. Again, not super high numbers. Apply ability block, disrupt, and heal. That's good. Ability block is a great skill. Now, it does 2 turns of ability block in Crucible. On crit, this ability gains 100% extra focus. But again, a lot of the crit stuff comes from Kang, and you get a lot more of that in Crucible. So, again, pretty basic move. You know, like, even characters like Sharon Carter can already do damage with ability block and hit multiple targets. And so, this is nothing really fancy. Vanity Queen, her passive, on spawn apply defense. At least the team gets 2 turns of defense up outside of Cosmic Crucible. And there's this, I guess. Whenever this character gains 1 or more positive effects, gain 10% speed bar. So that's something, I guess, but, you know, realistically, it's not a super stellar kit outside of Cosmic Crucible. Now, a lot of people are like, Boilon, it's a Crucible team. Yes, but I try to extract as much value out of a team as I possibly can when I kind of indicate whether or not I want to build it. And so that's what we're aiming towards. So Titania gets a bit of the low ranking for me, despite her stats being pretty good. So what that means is that she's going to slay in Cosmic Crucible, but outside of that, I don't know, you might not see it as much. So we're going to get to the Boilon rating at the very end when I finish all the characters. Absorbing Man. Now, his stats aren't too terrible either, actually, other than speed, but he is the tank, so he is the Mystic Protector. His stats are pretty good as far as a Protector goes. Top 27 there for health. Damage stats, not very good, but he's not really intended to do that kind of stuff. He's 8 in armor, very respectable. His focus is 32, and resistance is 10. And this is outside of Cosmic Crucible, so that's pretty interesting. Now, in Crucible, he does give the team 50% resistance, so once again, when you see everyone else's stats and their values, that's going to be ratcheted up in Cosmic Crucible. So, you know, it's not a big problem in Crucible. A lot of this gets fixed in their stats in Cosmic Crucible. Not a big problem there. But now let's go on back into the kit, right? So I have Absorbing Man here. What does he do outside of Crucible, either by himself or with his team? So attack primary target for 360. This sounds actually more than Titania, but I think she has a better damage stat. Copy and clear 2 positive effects. That's pretty cool. From the primary target to self. If they have vulnerable, gain 2 deflect. Now, this is actually largely specific to Kang's kit, so I feel like we're not there yet to Kang. We're going to be there next. But yeah, Kang does a lot of things that helps everyone else. Wrecking Ball, his special. Copy and clear all negative effects from all Masters of Evil and himself. Flip all negatives to positives on self. Apply offense down for 2 turns to the primary target, and then attack primary and adjacent targets. Pretty good, actually. This is, I think, better than Titania standalone. But once again, he's also a global character, and there's just so many of them if you need them for other reasons. Clear taunt from all allies. Gain taunt, and then in Crucible is 2 turns, so it's basically his tank taunt move. Diamond in the Rough is ultimate, clear all negative effects from self. In Crucible, heal self, you know, right? And then attack primary target for 500% plus clear all positive effects. This is super boring outside of Cosmic Crucible. It's an ultimate move that cleanses himself, and it does damage. That's it. And clears the positive effects. Pretty boring. In Crucible, apply deflect and immunity to self. So this is really, really important. The rest of it is super effing boring. He heals himself, but you know what? This is actually a pretty boring ultimate in my opinion. His passive, he gains taunt and 3 deflect on spawn. This is interesting, and it's outside of Cosmic Crucible, so he has on spawn taunt, which is quite rare, somewhat rare. You know, other characters like Drax and Red Guardian, there might be down the line some reason that you might want to use this as a better character because he's more improved than the other two in a spawn taunt reason for Alliance War maybe, or some sort of other configuration of characters that you want a spawn taunter. So Absorbing Man actually gets some more nods to me than Titania does because of this extra usefulness that could be used outside of the team, at least outside of Cosmic Crucible. So keep an eye on for Absorbing Man, because this is something that is actually going to be pretty good. The rest of it, though, it's okay. You know, he gains speed bar and clears his own taunt. It's kind of like a recovery method. You know, a lot of them have that now. Gain 20% armor and resistance per defense up. So there is a lot of Crucible text in here, but, you know, there are some interesting parts of his kit that can be used outside the team. So he does get a better of a nod to me than Titania does. Now, Kang. Stats, interesting. Glass Cannon, yes. He is a Cosmic Blaster, Tech Blaster, and his damage stat is very good. He's got a top 20 damage stat. The rest of his stats are okay. His armor's okay. He's very fast. This is really good. He is the top 10, or he is the 6th fastest character in the game with 130 speed. Very rarely do you see characters with 130 and higher, Red Hulk being one of them. Very, very good. So in a turn-based game, and for being a damage character, I think there's going to be some value here, and we're going to talk about that. Now, in his the notes section here, you know, he does offer a lot of crit to the team, and I need to zoom out to get the rest of it. So on Crucible offense specifically, he gains an extra 40% crit chance and 20% crit damage to himself and the team. Otherwise, outside of Crucible, they only give 20% crit and 10%. So you actually add that up. So in Crucible offense, he gives 60%, you add them up together, 60% crit chance and 30% crit damage in Crucible offense. Is crazy, which is why a lot of the kits of the other characters talk about vulnerability and crit and stuff. So he is definitely a glass cannon, but he actually does have a really good kit as well. So his basic is all piercing damage, and they all ignore defense up, which is crazy. So his basic attack, if the target is vulnerable, fill this character's speed bar by 20%. 360% piercing, crazy for a basic, and ignores defense up, even better. His special, if you ignore the Crucible offense stuff, attack primary and adjacent targets for 420% piercing. Pretty big numbers, and he gains 1 evade if he crits. So per crit, he could get more than 1, right? Again, I want to ignore the Crucible text, and this attack ignores defense up. They all do that. His ultimate, which is on a cooldown of 6, again, ignoring the Crucible offense stuff. Attack all enemies, so it's an AoE attack for 300% piercing, and it clears 3. 3 is a lot, so it's just almost clearing the entire field. This attack ignores defense up, so if they have that, it doesn't matter. And characters killed by this attack cannot be revived. Of course, there's a lot more in Crucible, but it's a pretty powerful attack despite it being pretty normal. But his passive is where you really get it. The Time Warlord, attack all enemies, AoE for 50% piercing on his turn, ignores defense up. You know, a lot more stuff in Crucible. He gains 20% crit chance for himself and all Masters of Evil allies outside of Crucible, and the 40% crit damage. So if you stick a Raider ISO on him, he's going to have like a guaranteed crit. He's definitely going to have a guaranteed crit in Crucible. But yeah, his numbers, I think, are going to be very, very high. Lots of Crucible offense text, which is a little bit unfortunate. But both in and out of Crucible, I think Kang is going to be really, really good. And another reason why you're going to want to build him is because he's Cosmic. So there isn't a lot of great Cosmic options. Can I actually click on this? Is it going to filter it? Yes, it does. So there's not a lot of good Cosmic options now for Dark Dimension, and not a lot of newer characters. So I think Kang is going to be that new inclusion that you're going to want to have if you're a newer player, assuming we can unlock KANG, right? We talked about how these unlocks are becoming more, a lot harder and harder for players, but if you can get him, he's going to be a really good character to bring in for Cosmic Crucible because he's a newer character, for Dark Dimension, because he's going to be a newer character and his stats are very good. So he is a Cosmic character. He's also a tech character, which means you should have plenty of gear lying around even post Bionic Avengers. So KANG gets a heavy nod from me. Now, finally, Moonstone. Her stats are very mediocre across the board. And one thing I want to note, actually, really quickly, is that KANG doesn't have a damage passive for the team. Normally, teams have damage passives, but KANG has crit chance and crit damage passives. So they're kind of exchanging that. They didn't want to give a flat damage passive like a lot of the characters do for their team, instead going for the crit chance and crit damage. So that's really interesting. You might want to include some additional raiders to, you know, kind of stack on top, at least in Crucible, for this kind of stuff with KANG. But yeah, no flat damage passive. So Moonstone's stats are pretty mediocre across the board. She has pretty high focus, and that's because she actually has a focus passive. Her speed is also pretty good, which is great for a, you know, speed turn-based game. But she is the focus passive of the party, of the team, so that's why you get it. In Crucible offense, it's even higher. It's like 200%, I think. I'm pretty sure these stack 50 and 150% in Crucible offense, or maybe they don't, but either way, it's a lot of focus, and that's why her stat is so high. Now, oh, I already gave it away. Yeah, KANG is my Boilon rating #1. I thought I deleted everything, and I was going to put it in during the video. Oops. So let's talk about Moonstone. Basic attack, 300% damage and applying defense down for 2 turns. If the target is vulnerable, gain 1 ability energy. Now, I just want to double back really quickly to KANG because that's where it happens. You get this part right here on Crucible offense. If this character has 4 or more Masters of Evil, apply +1 vulnerable to all enemies every time he takes a turn. So that's why they're pretty much going to have vulnerable. It's not to say that you can't apply it in other ways, but it's going to be super easy to do it with KANG. Dark Whispers, reduce speed bar of the enemy with the highest damage, excluding the primary target, by 20%, and then mind control that enemy. Attack primary target for 400%, plus apply defense down and slow. You know, for a cooldown of 5, it's not AoE speed bar, so it's not super great for considering outside of Cosmic Crucible. Her ultimate, attack primary and adjacent for 250. I feel these numbers are very low, in my opinion. Apply 2 defense down up to a max of 3, but this stuns in Crucible, so this is going to be a lot better in Cosmic Crucible, but outside of it, pretty bad, actually. And I guess her role is a controller, but these numbers, the percentages are not going to be, they're not going to translate very well outside of Cosmic Crucible because her damage stat is actually not super stellar. She's pretty mediocre in that regard. Her passive has a lot of stuff on it, and not a lot of stuff at the same time, because it's really just this. Otherwise, it's this stuff, the focus stuff in Crucible. So if this character has at least 1 ally, gain 1 evade up to a maximum of 3. Okay, so she's getting more survivability. If this character has 1 or, and this is anyone, 1 or more Masters of Evil, heals 10% of this character's max health. 2 or more, bury herself. So she's healing, barriering, clearing a positive effect from the enemy with the lowest resistance, and then transferring a negative effect, excluding ability block and stun, from self to the enemy with the lowest resistance. So it's kind of complicated, and it gets ratcheted up the more Masters of Evil that you have. But that means as a standalone character outside of this game mode, you know, outside the team, is not going to be very good. And I know that a lot of people say in the comments, well, it's not meant to be played outside of the team. But plug-and-play characters are very, very strong. So if the ones that are anyways. And so what are my ratings? Well, KANG, #1, for sure. So as far as I almost want to say he's a plug-and-play character. I think that at least outside of Cosmic Crucible, he could be a plug-and-play character. Now, you're not going to be bringing him into... Oh my god, my hair is a mess. You're not going to be bringing him into Arena, obviously, because we have Apocalypse on the horizon. We have the current meta with Spider-Weaver and 2099, so you're not going to do that. However, you know, there might be some value in Alliance War in the team, outside the team, maybe, and definitely in Dark Dimension. So there's going to be a lot of value in bringing them up for Cosmic Dark Dimension if you still need to do that. The other characters... Honestly, I'm going to give Absorbing Man a 2. I think he's 2nd place on the team because I think that with his Spawn Taunt, I'm going to put that in here. Spawn Taunt. because I think that's actually a very valuable skill. I think what that means is that you might see Absorbing Man even stand alone in some sort of hybrid team down the line in, say, Alliance War Defense or whatever, right? That makes it a little bit easier to combat other teams. Moonstone, Titania. This is a tough one, really. I'm going to put Titania at number 3 because her stats across the board actually look really good. So I'm interested to see how that translates outside of the team and outside of Cosmic Crucible. That being said, she has a lot of Crucible text, so I'm not... It's basically the best of the worst at this point. That means that Moonstone gets the rating of number 4, and sadly Ultron, despite the bots, gets number 5. Now, in Crucible, he is pretty cool because now his bots all attack when you summon them, which is really, really great. But outside of that, I think the best value that you're going to get out of these characters is Kang. And this is the character that I'm going to be putting some cores into, assuming he's got a core orb. We'll see if he's a dark promotion credit, red star character, all of that. But Kang looks to be the best character of this team going forward. That's just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about Masters of Evil and what you think about what you've just heard in today's video. So that's it, everyone. And of course, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.